Welcome back to our board recaps video, and this is for the month of November. And the purpose of these is to highlight the topics of conversation at our board meetings for the past month. So if you want to be informed, you can certainly do so at your convenience. Now we'll be sharing our Make a Difference recognitions and the items that are being considered by our board in the following three categories. Those categories are information, discussion, and action, otherwise known as Step 1, Step 2, Step 3. So let's just jump right into our November 5th board meeting. For those who make a difference in our district, Jewell Middle School recognized teachers who all attended West Aurora School District in their elementary and their middle and their high school years. And those staff members are Tiffany Thomas, Kathy Dilday, Kim Lundberg, Jen Bentley, Andy McCann, and Amy Randall Towns. Now these recognitions were presented by the principal at Jewell Middle School, Dr. Greg Scalia. Now we had quite a few information items at this November meeting, so let's jump right into the normal that we always hear, and that's our school improvement plan, and that was presented for Jewell Middle School by Dr. Greg Scalia, the principal. We also had an update on the ESSA, which is the Every Student Succeeds Act, and the school report card designations, and that was as presented to the board for information by Liz Wendell, who is our Director of Assessment. We had the proposal and structure of our 5th and 6th grade band. That was presented to the board the previous meeting, and that was shared by Dr. Will Dwyer, who is our Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning. We also had the 2018 Tax Levy information, and that was presented by Mr. Ryan Abramson, who was our Director of Finance. And finally, we had our update on recent community events and efforts, and that was presented by our Director of Community Affairs, Mr. Alex Perez. Now in our Step 2, which is also known as the discussion items, we brought back the recommendations for the voice over IP system that will be presented further to our Board of Education in an action item in the following meeting. But this is a Step 2 for them to consider, talk about, and think about. And this item was presented by Mr. Don Ringelstein, who is our Director of Technology. The second discussion item was the West Aurora High School course proposals, and that's for our 2019-2020 school year, and that was presented as a Step 2 for their discussion as well. This includes any updates that the board asked for from the previous presentation. And this was also presented by our Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning, Dr. Will Dwyer. Ironically, at this meeting, we had no action items. So now we're going to move into our November 19 board meeting. The district recognized members of the Board of Education for all of their efforts to lead and support the students and staff of our district. I had the great honor to be able to present and thank our board members for all of their tireless efforts throughout the school year in their roles as board members, so we appreciate all that they do. Jefferson Middle School recognized Mr. Brandon Foster, who is our in-school intervention supervisor at Jefferson Middle School. And this presentation and recognition was presented by Principal at Jefferson Middle School, Ms. Shawn Munoz. In the information section, we have the school improvement plan for Jefferson Middle School, and that was presented by the principal and her assistant principals, Mrs. Shawn Munoz, who is the principal there. Great presentation. We also had an update of these 2018-2019 superintendent goals. I actually presented this and shared with our board all of our 19 goals in our 5 different categories, and we just talked about what kind of a progress and the status they were in terms of our completion and our approach to those, just to kind of keep our board up to speed. Also, as an information item, West Aurora High School has been invited to participate in the 2019 International Student Science Fair. The uniqueness of this is it's being held in Singapore, and so it's a great honor for our students to be invited to that. Another information item was from the technology department, and they talked about some of our recycling options that we usually present to the board for their approval, and this will go through those normal steps. Once again, we were regaled by the Director of Community Affairs, Mr. Alex Perez, as he shared the community events and efforts throughout the district. Discussion items. Well, we had 2 of those. The proposal and structure, as you heard from the November meeting, of our 5th and 6th grade band, and that was presented by our Director of Secondary Teaching and Learning, Dr. Will Dwyer. Also for discussion was the 2018 tax levy information as presented from the previous meeting, as presented by Mr. Ryan Abramson, our Director of Finance. And finally, we had 3 action items at the November meeting. The Board of Education approved the submitted Sound Inc. for the VoIP, which is a voice over IP system, as previously presented in the prior 2 board meetings. Action item, the board was asked to approve the tentative tax levy as presented the previous meeting, and then there will be an official vote on final adoption at the December 10 regular Board of Education meeting. And finally, the last action item is that the Board of Education was asked to approve the high school course proposals for the 2019-2020 school year as previously proposed in the previous 2 meetings. So those are the board recaps for the month of November. You should look for, in January, our recap of, we have 1 singular meeting that was held on December 10th, and so we'll be recapping that meeting in the month of January. So have a great holidays. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll see you next time.